Whenever I've raised the topic of grooming gangs, even within relatives, the first thing they say is white girls wear short skirts. First thing that should have come out of your mouth is condemn.
That's very concerning.
I mean, I was just speaking my mind. I definitely didn't think people were going to come after me and start threatening me. What have I said that so bad that someone would actually want to kill me? There are people living in this country. They talk against this country. They don't display British values, and they're causing a lot of trouble.
What did you say that provoked the death threats? What specifically was it?
So they're trying to live here like it's Pakistan. We're the victims. Islamophobia, racism. They don't want to take any responsibility, any accountability for anything. Someone tried to radicalize me when I was in Luton sixth form college.
It's in an actual school.
The 7/7 bombers got on the train from Luton. They were in front of me in the train station on that day.
What?
I was a pro-Palestinian at the time. And then my manager said one thing to me in the one-to-one that we had. It's like, that was the spark. And I was like, oh my God. I think if you're living in England, live in England if you love England. If you hate it, you have no business here. The English people, sadly, I feel, don't understand what they're getting themselves into. I feel maybe we can still do something. I think in another 5-10 years' time, it's too late.
Lubna Zaidi, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming to speak with me. Our audience may be familiar with you from your appearance on the BBC show The Apprentice in 2019. But since then, you have gone on not just to be a YouTuber, but an outspoken YouTuber on the issue of Islam in Britain, integration in Britain. And I note you're quite patriotic Brit, but you've been calling out your own community. Now, American audience might not know Luton, but you are from Luton, one of the roughest, toughest cities in Britain, and the birthplace or the hometown of Tommy Robinson and Andrew Tate. We're going to get into that, I hope, in this conversation. You seem to be having serious threats against you as a consequence. Before we get into that, I was wondering if you might take me on the journey from Apprentice to YouTuber and outspoken voice on the issue of Islam in Britain.
Sure. So I went on BBC The Apprentice in 2019 and I was a fan of the show. I read Lord Alan Sugar's book and I was like, I'm going to actually meet him one day. And that happened. So we're very excited. It was a new experience. I came out of the show, whole new world. I started a YouTube channel and then I wasn't sure exactly what topics I want to speak about. So I was experimenting with different things like speaking about accounting, business, etc., trying to find my voice. But then I realized this country is quite divided and actually people from my background, i.e. a Muslim background, a Pakistani background, are displaying certain behaviors which I think are putting other people off and it's giving a very bad impression of us. So then they were controversial topics, but I did hold back for a very long time thinking of actually, should I start talking about this kind of stuff on my channel? And I really, really held back. And then I got to a point where I couldn't hold back any longer. And then I started speaking about what I really, really wanted to speak about. And I was surprised that actually my voice is something people wanted to hear. Like I found topics to speak about, which not only I want to speak about passionately, but other people also are interested in hearing me about. So then I started this off and I was just speaking my mind. Like I didn't really think anyone's going to be even interested in listening to me. I definitely didn't think people are going to come after me and start threatening me. I mean, that's just crazy. So the intent of the channel is positive. The channel's name is Candid with Lubna. And it's called Candid with Lubna because that is my personality. I'm very direct. I'm very honest. I'm very straightforward. And I felt, you know what? I'm going to do my community, people from my race and religion, a massive favor of just telling them how it is and where they are going wrong. And so that's how the journey started. And I don't, just to make this very clear, I don't speak about Islam. My channel's not about Islam. Of course, Islam is part of it because I come from a Muslim background, but I stay away from talking about scripture and the religion. And the problem that I'm trying to solve on my channel isn't whether Islam is true or not. You guys can make up your own mind. Of course, if you're a Muslim, you're going to believe in Islam. And if you're not a Muslim, you don't. So the problem I'm trying to solve is that there are people living in this country from my background, i.e. Muslim background, Pakistani background, who I feel they talk against this country. They don't display British values and they're causing a lot of trouble. These idiots do not represent me. And I'm tired of hearing their crap. Whenever I open YouTube, any kind of social media, I see them on the TV and I'm thinking these stupid fools do not represent me. And unless I start speaking up, they're going to end up representing me. I'm sorry. So I'm like, I'm just going to speak up, speak my mind. And of course, what I speak about are things that people from my community are not used to hearing about. They're not used to women speaking up. They're not used to women saying, strong women speaking up against, going against the status quo. And all I could say is I'm no sheep. I'm not going to follow anyone around. I've got my own brain. I was born in this country. I love this country. I was educated here. Everything I have, I owe to this country. And I feel like that a lot of the behaviors that I'm seeing from people from my background where they have a chip on their shoulder, they keep talking about colonialism. And I think speaking negatively about England, about English people and English culture is unacceptable. If you hate this country and the people so much, get the hell out of here. Like, why are you sticking around here? So like these kind of behaviors, there's too many people doing this. And the reason is they're all sheep. None of these are leaders. They're all sheep. And sadly, the leaders are the extremists with the loudest voices. And that gives the impression like we're all like that. And I'm like, I've shown these people 2 fingers. They can fuck off. I'm sorry. You can bleep this out if you want. But like, I'm so pissed off right now because, and you know, you open social media. Are there any normal Muslims, Pakistanis from my background? No, they all are. It's like they're like race baiters, the grifters. Or they're saying crap on purpose, knowing that they're going to get a big following from people from our background because all they're doing is they're allowing people to have more excuses not to speak up. We're the victims, Islamophobia, racism. They don't want to take any responsibility, any accountability for anything. And actually, when they're shit stirring in this country and they're causing controversies and they're causing issues, they will then blame the other party. So, for example, you know, we see this all the time that sadly, when there is an extremist attack from someone from my faith, and instead of coming out and saying not in my name, they'll be like, oh, but that's not our religion. Oh, that person wasn't a Muslim. You know, in Islam, you're not allowed to suicide. And that's true. But you can't expect non-Muslims to understand that. You have to speak up and take a stance. So I have no issues with Islam. I have no issues with Muslims who are good humans. I have an issue with extremism and Muslims and people who are calling themselves a Muslim who are doing really, really bad things. And I urge all Muslims, all the good apples, I call them, and all the good progressive Pakistanis, you got to start speaking up, guys. Because if not, the narrative has been hijacked by these horrible, crazy nutcases, extremists. And I'm sorry, personally, I don't know who to trust. I do not trust people from my religion and my background in terms of race, because I don't know which ones are the crazy ones, because they all look normal, right? You can't tell. I'm sorry, you can't tell. So I'm like, I'm not going to trust anyone right now. And I feel bad that I feel this way, but this is the reality. And I do not feel safe in this country. I used to. The fact that this country used to be like the leader of the whole entire world, I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm sorry. Is this really England? Britain, people, when they used to think about England and English people and, you know, progressiveness and the women's rights and all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, I'm living here and people all around the world follow my channel and they're like, what the hell's going on in England? How can this happen to you in this country? And they're urging the British government and British people to support me because otherwise I'm screwed. So I don't know what the hell's going on. Look, I didn't say anything. I don't ever criticize a religion. I don't call myself an ex-Muslim. I do say I believe in God, but I'm not religious. So why I don't know, what have I said that so bad that someone would actually want to kill me? I'm getting death threats. And of course, that's usual when you're on social media, like you would get death threats and, you know, people say stupid things. But people turning up at my house, saying they're going to kill me essentially online as well, stalking me. And they're saying, I have a target on my back. It doesn't matter where I will go, they're going to find me. They've got people everywhere. They've got eyes everywhere. What the hell is going on here? Oh, okay. I could go on and on.
So look, there's a lot to get into there.
Yes.
I'm going to pick a couple of the things you said, but I just wanted to start, if I don't mind, it's near the front of that, you said that you had a breaking point and you decided, no, I'm going to speak up. What was that breaking point for you?
All these fools from my background, especially on social media, that just keep saying the wrong crap. Well, the big breaking point, this is a very small thing. I went to the swimming pool in Luton, a ladies only session, and I'm wearing a swimming costume because I'm going swimming. And then there's these Asian ladies, Pakistani ladies, who are wearing a shalwar kameez, with the whole family wearing a shalwar kameez, and they're looking and they're staring at me.
That's the swimming suit burqa, is it?
No, they were like.
What does that mean? I don't know what that is.
So shalwar kameez is like the Asian clothes.
Okay.
Like what you would wear in your house, right? A top and a bottom. And they're wearing that at the swimming pool when it's an only lady session. and I'm wearing a swimming costume and they're staring at me. A, it's really rude manners to stare at someone. B, I'm wearing the appropriate clothing. What the hell are you staring at me for? I should be staring at you. And I'm like, oh my God, I've had enough of this nonsense. And then I was like, oh, it's really cringe. And they're just not getting it. It's rude manners to stare at people. Small things like that. And then again at the gym, at the swimming, at the changing rooms at the swimming pool, I'm trying to get changed. And then the cubicle beside me, the Muslim family were playing the audio of the Quran really loudly. And I'm like, A, you shouldn't be playing something loudly, wherever it is, in a public place. And B, something as holy as the Quran, like you're disrespecting actually, right, the Holy Scripture by playing it in a place where people are getting changed. Like they had no etiquettes, no manners whatsoever, even if you compare it to like Pakistani standards, like completely. And I even knocked on the cubicle door and I'm like, hold on, can you not play the Quran in the changing rooms, and especially so loud, like put on the headphones. They didn't open the door. And these kind of things were really starting to bug me. And then I just did a video and I just vented on YouTube. I'm like, do you know what? These are the things that are really annoying me. And I put it out, didn't think much of it. And then I was getting views, I was getting interest. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize there are other people that are finding this annoying. And actually, they want to talk about it, but they're afraid of being called a racist or Islamophobic or whatever. And I'm like, okay, interesting. And then I just took it from there. So there are behaviors, there's etiquettes, there's a lack of understanding, there's ignorance, there's victimhood mentality, they've got a chip on their shoulder. And again, I'm not speaking about everybody before someone cries racism and Islamophobia. I'm talking about the bad apples. I'm not saying all Muslims are bad. I'm not saying all Pakistanis are bad. However, we do have an issue. We have a growing issue of people from my background who just don't get it. And it's best that people from, like me, who come from this background, explain it, be a bridge to those people who have decided themselves to come and live in the West. If you are coming and living in the West and you're making this decision, it's up to you to integrate. It's up to you to assimilate. Stop expecting English people to change themselves for you. It's just stupid. It's so stupid anyway.
Okay, so it sounds a little bit like you're not focusing on your community because your community has a preponderance to these issues more than other communities necessarily, although maybe some people would argue that they do, but more because it's your community and you feel a responsibility towards your community. Have I understood that correctly?
Yes, exactly. I would say that I'm very conscious of the image that someone from my background has. I think it's a really bad image of Muslims in this country, of Pakistanis in this country. And I've got 2 children. I'm concerned that if things don't improve, it's going to have an impact on them, right?
Yeah.
Because they're going to grow up, and then if the image is really bad, it's going to have an impact on them. And I feel like there's no point of me speaking up 10, 20 years later when they're older and I'm an old elderly woman and I don't have the energy to do what I'm doing now. So I'm like, I'm going to do something about it now. I'm not going to be another person complaining. I'm going to do something. And this is me I'm doing everyone a favor.
What did you say that provoked the death threats? What specifically was it?
This is very interesting. And it took me time to suss it out because I'm like, why have I said so bad? Like I always caveat my things. I do have Muslims supporting me, a few, but still they come on my channel. And I'm like, what is it? And actually, the main thing is me condemning the grooming gangs. Me condemning the grooming gangs and talking about, Elon Musk said it, right? Muslim grooming gangs, Pakistani grooming gangs. And all I said is, if people are calling it Muslim grooming gang, Pakistani grooming gang, then surely it makes sense for Muslims and Pakistanis to come to the table and address the concerns people have. Don't hide. Let's talk about it. And they just did not want me to condemn it. And,
they told you, we don't want you to condemn this.
They don't want me talking about this topic. And they don't want me talking about this topic as a Pakistani grooming gang.
Because they don't want you to acknowledge it.
They don't want me to acknowledge it at all because they feel, I don't know what they feel because they're crazy nutcases who are threatening me. So I don't want to assume I know what's going on in the crazy nutcase mind. But the biggest thing is the whole grooming gang thing where they're like, oh, but there are white pedophiles and this is very racist. You don't even talk about it. And this is a scary thing. And this is what's taken me aback. That not only are the extremists trying to actively threaten me and shut me down in relation to condemning the grooming gangs, even our moderate peaceful Muslims, they haven't come out and said they've supported me. Actually, a lot of these people have been happy that my channel, when I said I'm quitting, I'm getting threats, I'm going. They were coming underneath my video and saying how happy they are that I'm now going away from YouTube and I'm going to stop talking about Pakistanis and Muslims. And these are the people that were also saying, oh, I pay tax and you know, I'm a progressive person, but you are demonizing all of us and all this kind of stuff. And the funny thing was that they don't understand that they are also an extremist. They don't think that they are, but if you are covering for the extremists, if you're not condemning them and actually you're happy, you're supporting the behavior, right? Because you're saying, oh, we're happy you're going. You are an extremist yourself. You're a bad apple. So there's too many of these people. I'm sorry, it's disgusting. Grooming gangs, of course, are bad, regardless of the race and religion of the victim and or perpetrator, right? It's all disgusting and I condemn all of it. However, if there are, the category, my understanding is the category we're speaking about are gang rape gangs. And my understanding is that people from my background, the Pakistani Muslim community, are disproportionately represented in that category. That is my understanding. Now, again, sadly, because of government, and I don't know what these people are doing, like they're giving us mixed signals about is there an issue? Is there not an issue? There's different research that's going on. If you listen to the left wing, they will say, no, you know, they will focus on the most pedophiles are white men. But if you listen to someone on the right, they would speak about the specific category, gang rape gangs, where Pakistani men apparently are disproportionately represented. So I feel like the government needs to do more to give us clarity. I
think you mean group child exploitation is what you mean?
Well, I think I've heard it being referred to as gang rape gangs.
Okay.
Yes, gang rape gangs. And in that category, they apparently, Pakistani men are overly represented. We should be able to speak about this kind of stuff, right? Even if Pakistani community dispute this, I want them to come to the table and talk about why. Because if they don't, everyone else who isn't a Muslim, everyone else who isn't a Pakistani is just going to think we're all in on it or we're all okay with it. That's what they don't understand. We still need to talk about it. This is not Pakistan where you brush things under the carpet and everyone keeps their mouth shut. That's your Pakistani culture. In English culture, we talk about things. This is where people haven't bothered integrating and assimilating. Had they bothered doing that, they would be less sensitive. They would understand this is the country that we're living in. But again, they're trying to live here like it's Pakistan, right?
Yes.
This whole honor nonsense. You don't have honor, guys, if you're hiding bad apples within your community, right? I'm sorry. Yeah.
With regards to the Pakistani rape gang scandal, it is the case, and you can find reports like the J Report, I think that was 2014 if my memory's not mistaken, where it found that it was predominantly from Pakistani heritage in Rotherham. It is also the case, if you review most, or if not all of the reports, that there's overrepresentation. But it's also obviously the case that there are white gangs as well. But within the Pakistani rape gangs, there's various reports from the survivors of being called white kuffar, kafir bitch, kafir sluts. They've been picked on predominantly because they are white. There's a historian called Raymond Ibrahim who's done a study on this on his website and does go back to the Hadith and the way the Prophet Muhammad talked about taking white girls as concubines, as slaves in the spoils of war, and he makes a link there. So there is a sort of link that some people are making back to Islam there, but it definitely seems that it is a problem. And I happen to agree with you. I'm a Christian, and if anything like this was done in the name of Jesus, I would have no hesitation in condemning it and coming out against it. So it doesn't seem to me such a difficult thing to speak out. And you mentioned moderate Muslims. Most famously in this country would be Majid Nawaz, Ed Hussein, Haris Rafiq of the Quilliam Foundation, now no longer functional, but in 2017 they did a report on this, found it was like 87% of perpetrators in the grooming gangs were of Pakistani heritage, and all of them were Pakistani heritage. It's not what they wanted to find. Now, I say all of that is to try and get into the psychology then of why you're finding your community don't want to explore it, and you've kind of unfurled that a little bit. But I wonder if it's that they feel that in so doing, they make themselves vulnerable, that they already feel like they have their backs up. They already have a sense that maybe they've been mistreated in this country. Maybe they've been experienced racism and they don't want to give anything to the other side. Do you think that might be part of the psychology?
I think that will be part of the psychology because they don't want to give people an excuse to be like racist and attack the community. Like they are afraid of that if you accept there's an issue, then we're going to become open targets, right? However, I also feel like the people on the left haven't helped the situation because they're telling people like me that we're not the issue. They're telling people like me that actually the white English people on the right are the issue, that they're trying to falsely accuse us. And so that's why it's so important that we have the facts, like, is there an issue, is there not an issue? And I've had this conversation on my YouTube channel with my followers and my subscribers several times, like, is there an issue, is there not an issue? And we're going round and round talking for hours and hours and hours. Whatever race and religion you come from, of course, if you're a rapist, if you're a groomer, that's wrong and disgusting. I condemn it, all of it. But and sadly, the people from my community think I'm out to get them, and I'm not. I'm just trying to help them, because you need to address the concerns people have. I think the thing with this is there's lots of things mixed in trying to discuss this topic. I would say those, and just to make it very clear, I do not talk about the Prophet, I do not talk about the Quran, I don't talk about the religion, and I steer away from those conversations because I don't want someone falsely accusing me of doing blasphemy, then giving other people an excuse to do any kind of fatwa or something against me. Because these are kind of the techniques people use to silence people. So I'm not talking about the religion at all. I'm not saying there aren't any influences, because of course religion does influence culture, but I steer away from that, because I think some of the extremists, that's a game they want us to play. They want us to say bad stuff about Islam so they can accuse us of Islamophobia, whatever. So I feel like that I can talk about these topics without criticizing the religion or saying that all Muslims are bad. So just to make that very clear, and I'm very happy for that to be on record, just to make it clear. But I do hear what you're saying. There is a massive cultural influence. The caliber of people that we've attracted into the UK is a wrong caliber of people. There are good progressive Pakistanis in Pakistan, but those are not the ones that have come here. The ones that have come here are the lower class, uneducated, uncivil. I call them hillbillies. That's the type of person that's come here into this country. And they were a pain in the ass when they were in Pakistan, and they were troublemakers in Pakistan as well. And now they've come here. So we're going to have trouble. We have not vetted people properly. And look at all the illegal asylum seekers coming on the boat. What kind of quality of people do you think they are? Do you not think that they're going to be a security threat? So I feel like we're causing issues ourselves. Like, we've allowed these people to come in either legally or illegally. We're going to have to make some decisions in this country. We need strong leadership. And if that's lacking, then I don't know. I don't think that England is going to exist as it currently does.
Perhaps you can illuminate me. I've never been to Pakistan, and you just say there that the types of Pakistanis that are being attracted to come to England are the sort of troublemakers. Perhaps you can colour that in for me. What part of Pakistan? How does, if you're saying these are the hillbillies of Pakistan, maybe you can describe a little bit Pakistan society and why it is that these types are coming here rather than other types, or what are the other types? I don't know that country.
Can I say that a lot of people think I'm bold for speaking out, but even though I'm bold and I'm direct, I will hold back on some things, like which part of Pakistan. I usually say hillbillies, and most people know what I'm talking about. If you Google which areas of Pakistan people have come into the UK, you'll find that information. I don't directly say which area in Pakistan, because these people are really dangerous. They're very dangerous. So as you can see, although I'm bold and I'm still speaking out, there are certain topics I'm not going to speak about. And I've told my viewers as well, because I'm sorry, I do not feel safe in the UK. Like, there's too many crazy people here. And because they lack critical reasoning skills, what I say and what they may understand or deliberately try to misinterpret just to put a target, like a bigger target on my back, is something I don't want to risk. I've got 2 children. So yes, I'm speaking out. Had this been the country what it used to be, the great country this used to be, I should have been able to have this conversation with you without having a million things on my mind. Oh my God, is someone going to misunderstand? Oh, I can't talk about this topic. Oh, it's just gone so crazy. So yes, yeah.
So you're getting these threats, in DMs and on YouTube comments? Is that
everywhere?
Everywhere, okay.
Everywhere. YouTube is my main one. Instagram, X, just everywhere. You better stop talking about this topic. I swear, you don't have much time left. You're a dead person walking and all this kind of stuff. And of course, it's scary when you read that. So I feel like I'm fending for myself. And yes, I do need support. I have no shame in saying I need support, because we need to come together. We're going to be stronger together. Me on my own, what am I going to do? And this is very important, because I was planning to quit YouTube. But then I thought, you know what? If I quit YouTube, these extremists win. And then other Muslims who are maybe thinking of speaking out, other Pakistanis maybe thinking of speaking out, the good apples, it's going to discourage them. They're going to think, oh, do you remember what happened to Lubna? Oh, I don't want that to happen to me, so I'm not going to speak up. And so I'm like, I have no choice now. I have to speak. I have to continue on this journey because otherwise it's going to be a win for the extremists. And therefore, all the hard work that I've put in the last year, it's like taking one step forward and then two steps back.
So when you say you don't feel safe in this country, just to be clear, you're talking about from within the Pakistani British community that you don't feel safe?
Yes, and also the people who may not be Pakistanis and Muslims who are, I feel, protecting people from my community, right? Islamophobia, people are talking about blasphemy laws and all this kind of stuff. And
so you mean the sort of political left?
Yeah, and I think that they probably mean well, but I think they don't realise other people outside of England are not like English people, especially from those countries very far away on the other side of the world. The culture, the religion is very different. The mindset is very different. Things may be very logical and, we may have critical reasoning skills in England and we take that for granted. The way people think in other countries is the opposite almost.
So what is it? How is it that they think? What is it, the difference between those communities and British communities?
One thing is being able to speak about topics. And that is avoided in places like Pakistan. Like you brush things under the carpet, you silence people. People have been falsely accused of blasphemy in Pakistan just to silence them. And these kind of behaviors are normalized, right? I mean, do you see honor killings in the English culture? Have you ever heard of this? No, right? You hear it about Pakistani backgrounds and other backgrounds. So there are those kind of things. And the English people, sadly, I feel, don't understand what they're getting themselves into. So I feel like it's my duty to speak up now when I feel maybe we can still do something. I think in another 5-10 years' time, it's too late.
If I'm not mistaken, there's about 4 million Muslims in Britain and about 2 million of them are of Pakistani heritage. I wondered if you might paint a picture for me of those British Pakistanis in Britain. This week, we saw the celebrations of Pakistan Independence Day, celebrations on the streets of Manchester, not in Pakistan, or I'm sure there were in Pakistan, but the streets of Britain is the point I'm trying to make. And we saw them hoisting up the Pakistan flag. And I found this quite curious myself because they were celebrating independence from Britain, but they are now in Britain. And I would imagine that they are British, at least technically, if not emotionally. Are the majority of them, like you say, upset by the extremists they see? What does it look like on the inside?
I've never heard of Pakistanis talking about extremists and how bad they are and how bad they're making us look. And whenever I've raised the topic of grooming gangs, even within relatives, the first thing they say is white girls wear short skirts. That's been their answer. And I'm like, whoa, the first thing that should have come out of your mouth is condemn the groomers, right? That's what a normal person I would have thought would have reacted, the way they would have reacted. But, these people generally talk about white girls and how they're wearing short skirts and how they're provocative and where were the parents? I'm sorry, this isn't Pakistan. So, and that really made my blood boil. I'm like, how dare you actually say that, right? We're talking about children here. And you're looking at them like in terms of why are they wearing skirts? Because this is England. They're going to wear skirts. They're English girls. The majority of the people that I have come across in the 40 years that I've been alive have had a chip on their shoulder. They talk about colonialism. They don't feel sorry for English people. They don't get it. They don't have a will to assimilate. They've got the victimhood mentality, and Britain created Pakistan. So Pakistan didn't exist. India existed. India gained independence, but then India had to give a large chunk of its land to the Muslims who wanted their own country. And then Britain made that happen, right?
So this is the 1947 partition.
Yes, exactly. And in that partition, my grandparents who were born in India came and migrated to the Pakistan side. In Karachi. So my parents were born in Karachi and then I was born in England. So they came as teenagers to England and then I was born here. So it's not really an independence as such, but they do celebrate it as if it is in Britain, which is interesting.
And you sort of seem to suggest that they probably wouldn't celebrate sort of St. George's Day or no. But if they're, okay, so I guess we're in the realm of speculation then, but if they don't feel British, what hope do we have of integrating, particularly now after so long that there have been Pakistanis in Britain?
Oh, I think the hope is where people need to speak up show them a different way, which is what I'm trying to do. And I'm not claiming that I'm going to be able to do all of it and I'm some kind of a leader. I just would like to hope to be a spark where some people from my background think, do you know what, actually, she's got a point. I may not like Lubna, I may not agree with everything she says, but actually, encourages them to think a different way. I think we have too many sheep. They're used to the same narrative. They haven't heard anything different. And they're very suspicious. For example, I get accused of being paid by Israel or paid by Tommy Robinson.
Yes.
I'm like, no, I'm saying all these things myself. No one's paying me. Even when I went on the Andrew Gold podcast and I put a picture up of him and me, and then I got all these horrible messages, anti-Semitic messages, saying that, oh, you are partnering with the Zionists and they're killing children in Gaza. And I've said a million times I condemn what's happening in Gaza, but I also condemn 7th October. Like, humans killing each other is disgusting. I condemn all of it. I don't care what race and religion people come from. But for them, it's like they will accuse you of things. They can't accept that someone from within the community would have an issue with anything. And I'm like, whoa, like they have a it's crazy mentality. It's all like sheep.
It's very tribal.
Very tribal, and there's not diversity in thought. It's discouraged.
You mentioned earlier in the conversation that they were race baiters and I think you used the word grifters, if I'm not mistaken. But these are the people that we see online. What are you referring to specifically? You spoke kind of vaguely. Is there something you had in mind? Is it
Mohammed Hijab, for example? He's got 1 million YouTube subscribers, and you see him coming on the mainstream media, Piers Morgan show. And that's the voice of Muslims people hear. And he sounds like pretty extreme, right?
He was just found, he just lost a major court case and found to be lying almost relentlessly in court.
Yeah.
This is a case against The Spectator and Douglas Murray.
Yes.
And I guess he's sort of exposed for the guy that most of us who'd seen him on YouTube already sort of recognized him to be. But I'm not sure that he's... Those of us who are not Muslim, we see him and we see how much airtime we get, and it makes us a little concerned that what he's saying, which I find largely repugnant, actually that can't possibly be what all Muslims think. And luckily I have quite a lot of Muslim friends, so I know it's not. But for those who don't have Muslim friends, if all they see is Mohammed Hijab, they're going to get a pretty sour taste and sense or idea of what the British Muslim community might be thinking.
Exactly. And I think the problem I have, again, is when I've done videos about Mohammed Hijab and I've said, look, he's just made a fool out of himself. But then again, it's just the reactions that I'm getting from the Muslims are they've got an issue with me condemning him and criticizing him. They see him as some kind of leader. That is what bugs me, that they are siding with him. The people that you would think the peaceful, moderate Muslims, like, they have no issue with. Actually, they talk about how he's inviting so many people to Islam, and therefore it doesn't matter what he does, because he's inviting so many people to Islam. And the whole focus is on inviting people to Islam and Islam growing, that they're not looking at him for the person that he is. And I'm like, this is just ridiculous. So I feel like people's agendas and their intent, they need to really check that and self-reflect because I think it's making us all look complicit.
Well, if it's the case that they think it's a good thing he's inviting people to Islam, he's certainly woken me up to a side of Islam that has alarmed me greatly. Although I know appreciate you said you don't want to get into that. You did also say in passing earlier that suicide was not allowed in Islam, and sort of a passing reference to the various Islamist attacks we've suffered in Britain. Seeing as you brought it up, I might challenge you on that, because it does say there's a lot. I was rereading the Quran on the weekend, and there is quite a lot about, in the mode of war, everyone who dies in the name of jihad, will be rewarded heaven. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but there's several surah that go to that end. So I'm not totally convinced by you saying that. I mean, in the name of jihad, I think suicide is actually encouraged in the Quran.
I'm not a scholar, so I will not comment on that. I think the way I've been raised and my understanding is that killing yourself, you go straight to hell. That's what I've been told. That was my understanding. So yeah, I'm not a scholar, and I will leave it up to you guys to make your own mind.
That's fair enough, and I hear what you're saying. You don't want to get into it. I'll just say one last thing on it. If you're endeavouring to go on the pursuit of uniting these people, which I think is a noble pursuit, which I will I fully support, because I want a country where we are united again.
Yeah.
But I think to do that, we have to go into what the core ideas are underneath, and you have to find where it is that Islam is compatible with Britain. I have to double check this, but I'm pretty sure the majority of Britons now do not believe Islam is compatible with British values. There is a national conversation about what British values are.
Yeah.
And so, obviously we're an ancient country. England's certainly an ancient country, and we have ancient morals and a great heritage. And the question about whether Islam is compatible with that sort of needs to be answered, right? Otherwise, everything else is just surface level.
Yes and no. Islam is not one thing. There are different sects. There's Shia, Sunni, Ahmadi, Qadiani, Quran only. Like, there's so many, like Wahhabi, Salafi, Sufi. Like, when you say Islam, it's not one thing. And it's different things dependent on different people's interpretations. And there's a spectrum of people that believe different things. Some people only believe the Quran. Some people believe more the hadiths. And like I said, I'm not a scholar. And the problem I'm trying to solve is not whether Islam is from God or not. You guys can make up your own mind. I don't have an issue with Muslims, and I don't have an issue with peaceful versions and interpretations of the scripture. I have an issue with people who I feel are doing bad things and hiding behind the scripture. And I don't want to give these people the chance to hide behind the scripture. I hold them solely responsible. Most people know in the world what is right and wrong. Raping someone is wrong. Killing someone is wrong. Like, lying is wrong, So I'm not going to let these people hide behind.
Okay, sure. Fair enough. But the question then in your mission for unity is, how do we present or make an appeal for the higher British values over those of the Quran and of Islam? Because, frankly, if you ask most Christians, they would say they put Christianity before they put Britain. Yeah. But that's okay because, or rather, it's compatible because Britain is completely built off Christian values from its foundation, from King Alfred, which we've covered on this show to some length. And so how do we appeal to the Muslim community in Britain to these values which might contradict Quranic values?
It's quite complicated. I would say that it is possible to be a Muslim and have British values. And most Muslims don't know their scripture anyway. They don't know the scripture. So I think where a lot of people go and deep dive into the scripture and say, oh, but this verse says this and that verse says that, and therefore Muslims are doing this. We're not raised to know all the scriptures and in detail. So I think what people need to understand is most Muslims don't know their scripture. And when they do know their scripture, they know an interpretation of the scripture that their parents have told them. And there is different interpretations. And there's different upbringings, and then there are cultural differences. It's all very complicated, and that's why I don't care about any of that. All I care about is British values. And those are, you have to be tolerant, right? But that's what scares me with the blasphemy laws and these kind of things. We're not giving the right signals to people to integrate, to assimilate. Why would they? Where's the incentive to? Actually, we're pandering to the extremists. That's what they want. So I feel like we need to take ownership and we need to take lead. Of course, not everyone's going to convert to Christianity, and not all Christians are religious. And yes, of course, this country is based on Christian foundations. And very sadly, we have moved away from Christianity, right? I feel really sad when I see churches closed down. I feel very sad when people are not respecting Jesus. And it really does pain me. And I wish actually we did move towards Christianity. And I would say that would probably save the day. But that's not up to me, right? English people are not producing children. I can't jump in bed with them and get them to do their thing. So I feel like I'm being honest, right? So there's only some things I can do. So I feel Muslims and Pakistanis need to take responsibility. If you're a good apple, right, and you're claiming to have British values, well, fantastic. Can you please reinterpret for the extremists the scripture as you believe it is, i.e. the peaceful versions, and do more? And they don't want to. That's what really pisses me off. I'm like, you don't want to take any responsibility for anything, right? And you want to live in this country, and some of these people are shitting on the country as well and the culture, but you're still living here, like you're doing us a favor. The biggest line I hear is, but I was born here. Well, your parents weren't born here and they migrated here. So it doesn't matter whether you're born here. You can remigrate wherever the hell you want. The way I'm trying to approach this is in two ways, is to give the extremists and the apologists less of an excuse to shut down my voice. Crying Islamophobia, racism, discrimination, let's, counsel her. I'm trying to avoid that. And secondly, I'm trying to create an environment where the real peaceful moderate Muslims, not the ones who are pretending to be peaceful, the real peaceful, moderate Muslims and progressive Pakistanis feel they can come to the table. I'm trying to create that environment. If I'm going to bash the religion and bash everything, they're not going to do that, right? No one with self-respect would come to the table at a table where their belief is being mocked or ridiculed. So it is very sensitive. It's very difficult to manage. And I do get criticism. You are not talking about Islam. And look, there are plenty of channels that are talking about religion and scripture. And this verse says that. And my channel is not Speaker's Corner. Mm-hmm. That is not the problem I'm trying to solve. I'm trying to create an environment where Muslims take a bit more responsibility. And if they don't, well, then it's all transparent then, isn't it?
Can you elaborate a little bit on this is another thing we see, which I don't fully understand, is the tension between Indian community and Pakistani community in Britain. I understand on a geopolitical level, but I don't understand why that's playing out amongst Britons. Or is it simply because of geopolitics?
The thing is that any beef that happens between India and Pakistan, because a lot of people who have migrated here are still emotionally attached to their home country, they can't let it go. So they feel like and it's third world behaviors, to be honest. They shouldn't be doing this kind of stuff in this country. So I think because they're emotionally attached to Pakistan, India, they feel like they need to, defend their country. It makes me really sad because my heritage is from both, mostly from India, because all my ancestors were from India before my parents were born in Pakistan. I would like to see everyone united personally. I think the Indians are generally doing much better than the Pakistanis because Pakistan was formed on the basis of religion, Islam, right? That's dominant. They are not used to other people of other faiths being completely equal, right? The way minorities are treated in Pakistan, I think, needs to be improved, and I have called this out. Whereas in India, because it's secular, it's similar to how we are living in England, they're more compatible with us. So there are those differences as well. And it's very complicated because so many millions of people died when the partition happened. They're still holding on to that, right? That because the deaths happened because of religious rivalry, right? Millions of people were dead. Women were raped. Of course, the Hindus are blaming the Muslims and Muslims are blaming the Hindus. And I just think it's very sad. And of course, Britain is blamed because the way it happened, it could have been managed better. People weren't given time to move and then it was chaos. And Britain, sadly, is blamed for a lot of the things. And I keep reminding everybody, I keep saying, look, no one is saying colonialism was good. And no one was saying the way partition was managed was good. However, stop blaming the English people that are alive today that have nothing to do with it for the past stuff. Because if you go back in history enough, all of our ancestors have done something bad, right? And I don't want to be blamed for something that my ancestors have done. But a lot of people do still hold a grudge. And when you go to Pakistan, what you'll realize is, if you speak to people, is the wounds are still raw. They talk about partition like it just happened. Like it's not something that happened 70 whatever years ago. Like they talk about it as if it happened yesterday. So I think for them in Pakistan and maybe India, it's going to take a longer because they're still living in those countries. For us who are born here, I feel like it's a very negative mindset to have, thinking about colonialism and all this kind of stuff, if you're planning to continue to live in this country.
You've written or published some very provocative videos on your YouTube already, and I might bring them up if you don't mind. One of them is titled, "Did Pakistanis come to the UK to build the UK?" Which you argue they did not.
No.
Now, is this is something that's often said? This is why you're bringing up the question.
My God, yes. So when I've posted YouTube videos, sometimes when I'm venting, maybe it would have been helpful if I would have played the video that caused me to get triggered. So there are some people from my background, the Pakistani background, whose videos I've seen on social media who are talking about how our fathers built Britain and we came here and they were working in the factories and we built this country after the war. And when I saw that video, I'm like, this is nonsense. I've got to come out here and I've got to tell the truth. And that's what I did. So for anyone who's from a Pakistani background who will see my video, they'll be like, why is she bitching about us? And that's where I've maybe failed. I could have told the story properly. I could have showed the video that triggered me so that they understand where I'm coming from. So, but look, it's true. We didn't come to build. I mean, okay, yes, there were jobs and Britain had jobs available and there was a demand and all that kind of stuff and we did the supply. But I think to say that we built the whole of Britain is stupid, right? Because Britain existed. England existed before us. England is England because of English people, not because of us. So I'm not saying we haven't contributed, contribution is different to claiming we've built this country, right? Yes, we've contributed. We haven't built this country. Get the facts right.
And the other provocative one was your video that Muslims are the main reason, and this is not me saying it, this is you saying, Muslims are the main reason Birmingham has become so unclean.
And it's not me saying it, it's the imam in the video saying it. So the imam in the video that I played is basically him. He is saying himself that we the Muslims are one of the main reasons why Birmingham is so filthy. And he said in the video that, of course, it's Ramadan, right? People are eating food. And instead of like throwing them in the bin and going to the recycling centre when the bin men had done a strike, you're just throwing them, you're piling the bags outside on the street like it's Pakistan or whatever. And he's the one who said it. So because when he said it, I was literally just quoting him. And the whole point of that video was to, people don't want to hear from someone like me, right? I'm a woman, I'm not wearing a hijab, I'm not saying that I'm religious. But someone who's an imam, who's a man, who's from the Muslim community, who is saying that Muslims are one of the main reasons why Birmingham is so filthy, at least listen to him, right? So I'm just trying to encourage people to do the right thing.
So I was just in Lebanon, and it's a country which is a third Christian, a third Sunni, and a third Shia. And even though the whole country has a garbage crisis or trash crisis, it's a totally failed state. If you want any example of diversity not being our greatest strength, visit Lebanon. But it was clear that the Christian regions were relatively clean. Sunni, there's a little bit more trash. And the Shia regions, there was a hell of a lot of trash. I know the Shia regions run by Hezbollah. But it did seem to me that so I was thinking about this question, why is there this different? And it might be because of the strength of the different local councils or whoever's running it, or whether there was something in the theology of it, and there was a little bit of inshallah to it. Do you think I'm wrong to pursue that line of thought?
The thing with Muslims is we're supposed to be clean. We're supposed to keep clean. The people are completely responsible for their hygiene. Again, if I speak about places like Pakistan, people are used to just dumping their rubbish and throwing it on the floor. And I've seen those behaviors in the UK as well. They'll come in, they'll be like throwing it. I'm like, oh, hold on, there's a bin there. This isn't Pakistan.
So look, you've mentioned, and this is something that I'm hearing increasingly in the public discourse, civil war. And it might, or certainly, at the moment, it seems like there's a lot of civil unrest for sure. I think everyone would agree on that. Now, last summer, 2024, after the Southport killings, we saw protests and riots up and down the country. And this summer, we've seen more protesting. This has been around the migrant hotels. But I think part of the sentiment or the mood that carries these protests, and actually, as we speak now, we had the raising the flag. I don't know if you saw that protest, people hoisting the Union flag and the cross of St. George up and down England. But it is the case that we're seeing, unlike anything I can remember in my lifetime, a division between groups. And it seems to me that the groups, if I'm to be super broad stroke on it, is Muslim and non-Muslim. And particularly after Southport, it seemed like that. And in fact, there were, after the Southport riots, the Southport protests, where it was a mix of people. It wasn't just Christians or British indigenous. There were all sorts of races, but there was countering protests, which were very much Muslim counter-protests. What's your take on this civil unrest that we're seeing?
I think that as soon as someone criticizes Islam, people within the Muslim community can jump into jihad mode. They will see it as defense, self-defense, and they'll come united. So, and that is my concern here, because when the Southport killings happened, of course, there was news, and there was a lot of fake news as well, in terms of who the person was, if this is like a terrorist attack, and there was a lot of confusion going on. And then the Muslims heard that, I'm thinking from the Muslims' perspective who are listening to this, from their perspective, there were people saying that they're going to attack mosques, and therefore everyone started defending the mosques. And that's where things kicked off. And I think that is my fear with the internet as well, like misinformation, disinformation, Chinese whispers. But the thing is, because we're all like, I feel like we're walking on eggshells and we're waiting, or it feels as if we're waiting for something to happen. Something big's going to happen and then everyone's going to get triggered. That's what it feels like. It feels like the calm before the storm, or the lead up to it. And I do fear that. But the thing with the Muslims is they will unite together, because that's how we've been raised. And that's how the religion works as well. Like, you protect each other, you support each other. And I don't mind supporting other humans or even people of my faith as long as they're good people. But I refuse to support people if they're bad people. I think that's where I'm slightly different to the Muslims, where they'll be like, they won't necessarily go into more detail and look into what is the type of Muslim we're supporting. It'll be a bit more like, he's a Muslim, we have to support him. And I'm like, no, he's a Muslim, but is he a good person? If he is, no worries. But if he's a wrong 'un, I'm not going to just support him just to, because he's part of the ummah, right? So I feel like we need to just step back a little bit. I don't know. I feel there's going to be something happening major in this country. We're all waiting for something bad to happen, which sounds really bad. And it's quite scary, actually.
So are you sort of suggesting if there's another Aqsa Cabana, or there's another 7/7 bombing, or there's another Manchester Arena attack, or another Islamist attack, that will be the trigger?
It could be that, or it could be the other way around, where
there's another Finsbury Park or Finsbury Park mosque attack. Or
yeah, It could be the other way around as well, where an extremist from another side does something bad, and that triggers the whole thing off.
That's very concerning. So look, I mentioned at the beginning I wanted to ask about Luton.
Yes.
Well, I have been to Luton several times, and it's quite something to behold. It's obviously changed a lot. You've lived there, or had lived there, your whole life, am I right?
Yes.
Could you describe how it changed in your lifetime?
How has it changed? There are more Asians, people from my background. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, in terms of, there are so many Asians here. But I think that for someone doing what I was doing in Luton, criticizing the bad apples from within my community, that wasn't the best place to do it. But actually, it was the best place for me to learn what the issues are. And I think that's why where a lot of people are saying, Andrew Tate was raised in Luton and Tommy Robinson was raised in Luton. What is so special about Luton? Because it's just a small, tiny town. But there is so much going on in that small, tiny town where instead of me living 40 years, I feel like I've lived 100 years. And I've got all this wisdom, which I'm trying to now share with people in terms of multiculturalism and how communities engage and what's happening. So Luton, sadly, has always been in the news for the wrong reasons, extremism. The 7/7 bombers got on the train from Luton. And I believe they were in front of me in the train station on that day.
What?
Yes, because when I saw my train ticket, and
so you were on the tube on 7/7?
I was in the queue with them to get the train ticket. I believe they were in front of me, and there were like 4 of them with big backpacks.
And you remember seeing them?
Yeah, I remember just like getting bored in the queue and just where you're waiting for people, for your turn to come. And I remember guys with big backpacks, and I found that a bit unusual. And those bombs could have gone off at any second. I could have not even be here right now. So, I've got those interactions. Someone tried to radicalize me when I was in Luton Sixth Form College, which I've spoken about on my YouTube channel. So I was just going to an Islamic class, which the students arranged in Luton Sixth Form College. And I was like, you know what? I haven't been raised in a religious way. I would like to learn about my religion. And I went to that class, and the whole class was normal. There was a white convert as well, and it was a healthy discussion. And then one guy got up. He got the TV out, and he put the video cassettes. We used to have those at the time. He put that in, and he didn't tell us what he's going to show us. Someone was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, what is he going to put on the TV? And then it was a video, which I now view as a propaganda video to radicalize people, of Muslims being killed around the world. And he was talking about Gaza, and there's a war going on. This is Muslims against the non-Muslims, and they're killing us all, and they want us to be busy in the world, in the dunya, and focus on the world. And these are all tactics they're using. We need to unite and all this kind of stuff. And I'd never seen this kind of video before. And his words and the way he was speaking was very, very, he was very influential.
How old were you?
I was 16 years old, and then I left that class and my mind was fucked. I was like looking at the world in a different way. I was looking at all the non-Muslims like, oh my God, they're out to get us. And I didn't even realize we're in a war. Like, you know, they
So you believed it?
Yeah, I believed it. And this is a scary thing. So 15 minutes with a guy like that and my mind was like messed up. And I never saw him again.
That's in an actual school?
Yeah, this is a college. And then, but the scary thing is a 15 minute experience with that guy and my mind was screwed up. Now, can you imagine other teenagers spending their day in and day out with these types of guys talking about this kind of stuff? It really messes with your mind. And that's what radicalizes them, right? They are influenced really heavily. So we do have an uphill struggle in this country because this was 24 years ago. I don't know what the hell's going on now.
And so that's what's going on at schools. What's it going on in families? Is it a similar conversation as the schools or is it different?
I've never had Muslims condemn extremists. I would say so not all Muslims are religious, right? And I would say not all Muslims are praying 5 times a day and therefore you're not religious in my eyes anyway. But all Muslims or most Muslims, 99%, are still very intolerant.
99%? Is that what you just said?
Most of them, yeah.
So you're the 1%?
I'm literally the cream of the crop. I haven't.
Although you don't seem very tolerant of the intolerant, I might say.
You've got to put your foot down, right? I think we need standards. And I think that's the thing that I think we've let this country go. I don't think we've understood what we're getting ourselves into. And I think the psychology is very different. Children are getting radicalized. And I just feel like, look, if you hate this country or whatever, just get out of here. Don't ruin it for the rest of us.
So I want to ask about Tommy Robinson. From your perspective as a Muslim growing up in Luton and living in Luton, when you hear about Tommy Robinson and what he's getting up to, what were your thoughts? How was he portrayed as a person? What was he thought of within Luton, within the Pakistani community? So
I didn't know what his issue was. I was told he's a racist, he hates Muslims, he hates all of us as brown people. That's all I knew. I never knew his story. I never knew where he's coming from. I never knew what happened. Now, when I look back, that wasn't the full truth, right? Because actually my understanding is like he knew someone who was groomed and actually he saw behaviors where there were extremists and stuff like that. And none of that was spoken about at all. He was like the image of someone who hates us. Like he's Hitler, right? He's trying to get us. He's trying to kill us all. That is what I was told, that he's the bad guy. And it's taken me so many years to look into actually what is he saying? Oh, I didn't know that. Was it his cousin that was groomed? You know, oh, actually, he's talking about extremists here. And was there funding from outside of this extremist organization in Luton? Never knew that, right? So there was more to the story, but we weren't told that. So you changed your opinion on him? So I'm going to reserve judgment until I meet him. I do plan to have a chat with him because I think it's impossible to reunite this country when Tommy Robinson is a big figure that a lot of people in the country do look up to. He does have a massive following on X, like 1.4 million people. And I feel like it's impossible to unite this country without him giving me a chance or me giving him a chance. So that conversation needs to happen at some point. We will see what happens. Now, I know I've asked a little bit about how your personal journey, but it's now that I've heard you and talk about various topics and trying to put it all together, you're clearly a free thinker and you clearly have great courage to take the narrow path, let's say. No? Courage, a little bit. But yeah. Well, I wondered, I asked a little bit what about the sort of breaking point to sort of speak out on YouTube. But I wondered, you talk about what happened when you were 16 years old and then the picture you get in Luton of characters like Tommy Robinson. But was there a moment where you sort of started to come out as the patriot, the British patriot that you are, that you actually sort of rejected some of the more extreme things you were hearing? Was there a moment in your life where that happened? So everything that I am is because of all the life experiences that I have. But one recent moment was a spark for me where I think was like, oh, do you know what? Maybe my attitude's not right. So I had a Muslim British-born Pakistani manager very recently. And when the whole Israel versus Palestine thing happened and of course I was condemning, all the children are dying and I was a pro-Palestinian at the time. Is this since October 7th or before? this is after 7th October. I didn't know what happened on 7th October. I didn't know the detail. All I knew was that Israel was bombing Palestine. And I was like, oh my God, children are dying and the mosques are being, the hospitals. And I was like, I jumped on that bandwagon. Of course, and that is disgusting. I condemn that. But I was one of those people who was behaving as if I've got a chip on my shoulder and blaming Britain and all that kind of stuff. And then my British Pakistani Muslim manager said one thing to me in the one-to-one that we had. He's like, just make sure you don't have a us versus them mentality. He just said that to me, that little thing.
Who's the us and them in that?
Muslims and everyone else. And I didn't realize I was displaying those behaviors. So, but because I was quite honest with him about how I'm thinking, and I'm like, this, and because I had to take a short leave from work because of the images of the children in Gaza, like the blown up bodies and stuff like that psychologically messed me up. I had to get tablets to tackle my anxiety. So then I was honest with him about how I'm feeling, like, oh my God, it's crazy. And Britain's supplying weapons to Israel. Like we need to do all this. And I was a pro-Palestinian at the time. And then my mind, that was the spark. And I was like, oh my God. Then I started self-reflecting on everything. Then I researched, I listened to what happened on 7th October. I listened to the Israel side. I looked critically at the Palestinian, the Hamas side, what they did. And then what I did on my YouTube channel, I was like, you know what? If they've raped women or if they've taken hostages that are like women and children, that's actually very un-Islamic. So then I made a video saying, can all the Muslims like come out and condemn Hamas and the rapes and all that? Because that's un-Islamic. And then what I found is that the majority of Muslims had a go at me. They're like, oh, but the Palestinians are oppressed people. I'm like, yeah, but if they're oppressed people, doesn't mean that they can do un-Islamic stuff. Like, surely you should condemn the un-Islamic acts. And they didn't. And then I decided not to become a pro-Palestinian. So yes, I still condemn, of course, all the deaths in Gaza, but I also condemn 7th October. I support the good humans on both sides. I don't care what religion they are, what country they are, like, I don't care. And I condemn the bad people on both sides. That is my stance now. Because I'm sorry, I'm not supporting people who are doing something un-Islamic and then the other Muslims are not even condemning them. Like, I feel like it's very selective how Muslims choose to condemn people and don't condemn people.
You've been on quite a journey already. As I already mentioned, I'm very happy to see you have the Union flag in your various social media handles. You clearly love this country, and I have very much enjoyed speaking to you. I have some questions from our Substack community directly for you, which I'm going to put you over on our Substack. But before we leave this main part of the show, is there anything else you'd like to bring attention to before we go over there?
Yes, what I would like to say is that I think if you're living in England, live in England if you love England. If you hate it, you have no business here. English people don't owe you anything. Yes, colonialism happened. It was bad. Everyone knows that. But you got to move forward. It's not a healthy mindset to have. And all I could say is I wish everyone well. I don't have bad intentions. I have good intentions. I'm trying to unite the 80 to 90% of the people who are not extremists across all faiths. And I'm trying to create an environment where Muslims feel comfortable coming to the table.
Lubna, it's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a great pleasure. Lubna,
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll ask the most difficult question from our viewers first.
Going and finding a job and working is like impossible now.
Julie asks, where do you get your strength to speak out about this problem in our country? Did you enjoy being on The Apprentice?
No.
Really?
I hated it.
Does Lubna believe the Prophet is the excellent example for all Muslims as stated in Quran 33:21? Thank you for watching The Winston Marshall Show with Lubna Zaidi. If you head over to winstonmarshall.co.uk now, you'll get to hear an extended conversation between me and Lubna where she answers some of your questions. That's questions from our Substack community. You'll enjoy ad-free viewing and exclusive content. That's winstonmarshall.co.uk. But otherwise, until next time, be well.